Mindset is the powerful idea that we can improve at the things we do, that our abilities are not fixed traits, but instead malleable qualities that can grow and evolve over time. The beauty of adopting a growth mindset is that it encourages us to take a step back and reflect by asking ourselves a few simple yet revealing questions. These are questions worth pausing to consider right now. For example, what have I been told I'm naturally good at? What have I been told I'm not good at or that I struggle with? What do I believe I'm good at? What do I believe I'm bad at? These questions help bring awareness to the origin of our self-perceptions. Next, consider another set of deeper questions. Why am I good at certain things? Was it because they came easily to me, or did I work at them for years? Or perhaps both? Why am I not good at other things? Is it because I never truly tried? Did I give up after an early failure? Or did I put in the effort for years, but still didn't feel proficient enough to keep going? In reflecting on these questions, you're not only identifying what you're good or bad at, you're also uncovering why you believe these things to be true. And just as importantly, where did these messages come from? Ask yourself, were these beliefs shaped by external feedback? From parents, teachers, coaches, or peers? Or did they come from within you, regardless of what others said? Perhaps you told yourself you weren't good at something despite encouragement. Or maybe you persisted in developing a skill even though others doubted you. In fact, there are people who become even more determined in the face of negative feedback. They dig in, not to prove others wrong, but to prove to themselves that they can become skilled through effort. As we continue this exploration of mindset, I encourage you to keep reflecting on these core questions. What am I good at and why? What am I bad at and why? To what extent are those labels, good at, bad at, part of how I see myself? This reflection is vital because we're about to look at research from Dr. Carol Dweck's lab, the foundation of the entire field of growth mindset. Her experiments reveal something profound. The type of feedback we receive can influence not only how we perform in the short term, but also the trajectory of our growth over the long run. The distinction is between identity-based feedback, such as being labeled smart, gifted, or unnatural, and effort-based feedback, which emphasizes how hard we tried or how much we applied ourselves. These two types of feedback send us down very different paths. One leads to fragility and fear of failure. The other leads to resilience, persistence, and long-term improvement. So as we move forward, keep those questions in mind. They'll help frame everything that follows and reveal just how much power your mindset holds over your potential. Over time, the kind of feedback we receive, especially when we're just starting something, can profoundly shape our beliefs about what we're capable of. This applies not only to children, but to anyone learning a new skill or pursuing growth in any area of life. And here's the striking part. Even the slightest differences in feedback style can set people down very different paths. Some persist and grow precisely because they refuse to give up, while others may retreat at the first sign of failure, all based on the feedback they've internalized. The powerful insight is this: those core beliefs about what's possible, for us, aren't set in stone. We can actually reshape them simply by changing the type of feedback we give ourselves and that we seek from others. One pivotal study that laid the foundation for the concept of growth mindset comes from Dr. Carol Dweck and her colleague Claudia Miller. The title of their paper is striking in itself. Praise for intelligence can undermine children's motivation and performance. At first glance, this might seem counterintuitive. You'd think that telling someone, whether a child or an adult, that they're smart or naturally talented would boost their confidence, increase motivation, and help them perform even better. After all, isn't positive feedback supposed to be, well, positive? But the findings told a very different story. The study. In this research, over 100 children were given feedback after performing a task. They were split into 3 groups: intelligence-based, feedback. These children were praised for their intelligence, being told things like, "You're so smart," "You're really good at this," or "You're a natural." Effort-based feedback. These kids were praised for the effort they put in. Comments like, "You worked really hard on that," or "You really focused and kept trying even when it was tough." Control group. This group received neutral feedback without emphasis on intelligence or effort. Later, all the children were given a choice between 2 types of problem sets. One was easy, ensuring success and praise. The other was more challenging, offering greater learning but a risk of failure. The results. The children who had been praised for intelligence overwhelmingly chose the easier problems. Why? Because they wanted to protect the label, to keep being seen as smart. Taking a risk might threaten that identity. In contrast, the children who received effort-based feedback were more likely to choose the challenging tasks. Their praise had been linked not to success, but to the process of learning, so they were more motivated to take on difficult problems that would help them grow, even if they failed along the way. The deeper implication. In both cases, the praise acted as a kind of motivator, but with vastly different consequences. Kids praised for their intelligence began to attach their sense of worth to being seen as naturally gifted. They avoided challenge to avoid failure. Kids praised for their effort, on the other hand, associated praise with the actions they took: trying, persisting, problem-solving. So they were more likely to seek out opportunities that would let them continue those actions, even if it meant not succeeding right away. This experiment reveals a powerful truth. The feedback we give, especially early on, does more than encourage or discourage. It shapes how people view themselves, how they define success, and how resilient they are in the face of difficulty. And here's the good news. We can apply this lesson at any stage of life, whether you're learning a new language, picking up a musical instrument, starting a business, or tackling any challenge. You can begin today by changing your inner dialogue. Shift the focus from who you are to how you're learning. Praise the effort. Value the process. The growth will follow. Now here's where things get even more powerful. The reverse is also true. When kids are praised for their effort with comments like, "You really tried hard," or "I love how persistent you were," or even, "You didn't give up, even when the answer didn't come easily," they don't just feel good. They work harder. They embrace challenges. They stay engaged, even when the problems get difficult. And guess what? Those same kids, the ones who received effort-based praise, not only stuck with harder problems, they also outperformed the kids who were praised for intelligence, and not by a small margin. The difference in performance was significant. What does this mean? It tells us that the stories we hear and repeat about ourselves matter. A lot. When praise reinforces an identity, such as calling a child so smart or naturally talented, it may feel good in the moment, but it subtly limits that child's willingness to take risks. Why? Because the next time they face a challenge, they may fear failing, and failing would mean losing that identity. In contrast, when the feedback is tied to effort, children associate their success with something within their control, their determination, their focus, their persistence. So when the next challenge shows up, they lean in rather than shy away. This is critical for anyone, parents, teachers, mentors, to understand. You want to be extremely careful not to attach identity-based labels to performance, even when someone is doing well. Of course, we should never give negative labels either. Telling a child they're dumb or not good at something is clearly harmful, and thankfully increasingly rare. But the more common mistake happens on the other end, when a child does something well and we reflexively say, "You're so smart," "You're a natural," or "You were born for this." we think we're building confidence. What we're actually doing is tying that confidence to fragile traits that don't leave room for growth or struggle. More from the study also measured actual performance on cognitive problem sets. At first, all kids performed similarly, some answers right, some wrong. But then the researchers split the kids into 3 groups. One group received intelligence praise, you're smart. One group received effort, praise, you tried really hard. One group got neutral feedback, control group. Later, all the kids received a second set of problems. Here's what happened. The control group, performance stayed the same. The intelligence praise group, their performance dropped noticeably. The effort praise group, their performance improved significantly. Let that sink in. Simply telling kids, you're smart, caused them to do worse. Telling them, you worked hard, helped them do better. Why? Because intelligence praise made the kids afraid to fail. They became focused on protecting the label. If I fail, maybe I'm not smart after all. So they avoided risk and didn't engage deeply. Effort praise, on the other hand, gave them permission to fail. It taught them that success comes from trying, adjusting, and learning. So they kept pushing and grew stronger because of it. The persistence factor it gets better. The researchers also looked at persistence, how many problems kids were willing to take on, how much challenge they accepted, and how long they kept going. Here's what they found. The kids who got intelligence praise avoided hard problems and attempted fewer challenges overall. The kids who got effort praise chose harder tasks, stuck with them longer, and attempted more problems in total. So not only did the effort-praised kids improve their actual performance, they also became more persistent learners. The real takeaway, you might have heard the saying, don't praise the person, praise the process. This study shows why that's not just a feel-good mantra, it's a scientifically backed strategy for better learning, greater motivation, and lasting growth. Yet in daily life, we still often hear things like, you're such a great athlete, you're so smart, you were born for this. Instead, we should aim for praise like, I saw how hard you practiced. You stayed focused even when it got tough. You kept going until you figured it out. Whether you're talking to a child, a student, a coworker, or even yourself, reward the effort, not the identity. That's how you build a mindset that doesn't just feel good now, but that leads to real growth over time.